What's up guys, Nikita here. Today let's talk about a little rule of thumb that hasn't failed me yet, and it will help you determine what the beliefs of the girl that you're going out with are regarding to men. How does she feel about men? And it might give you some insight into what her relationships were like before. In addition, if you ever have any conflicts with her and you're stuck in a place and you're not really sure why she's crying so much or why she's lashing out, you'll have an idea of why that's happening. And this whole idea goes back to her father. Here's the thing, this is a very important question that I always ask, and it gave me a lot of insight. I always ask about the relationship of the woman to her father. How did she get along? Does she still have a relationship with him? Is she a daddy's girl or otherwise? I see that if the answer is positive, that means she probably has a good, positive beliefs about men and the role of men in her life. If the answer is negative, or if the father wasn't there, or he was abusive in some sort of way, usually there are underlying negative relationships that she will have regarding men in her life. Now, where does that come from? Let's go back to when we were kids. When we were kids, our home base was a safe place for us. We'd come home, we'd have our parents, we wouldn't be judged, we'd be nurtured. Now, we would go to school, and there would be social challenges there. You have different cliques, you have failures and successes in school, but you could always come home to a safe place. Now, if the father or mother were nurturing, they cared a lot about the child, those are the beliefs the child is going to grow up with at home. In fact, those are the beliefs that are going to be reflected when the girl grows up and she looks at other men and women in the world. She'll think that, yeah, most people are like my parents, with a few exceptions that might be bad. Now, what if this is reversed? You grow up in a home, let's say she grows up in a home where it's more of a broken home, her relationship with her father is not very good, it's strained. She's going to see the outside world as men being strained towards women and not so good for women. She might grow up with negative beliefs, and she might consider that most men are negative out there in the world, with the few exception of certain men being good, but the overwhelming majority are negative. Do you see where this conflict comes in? So how does it affect you and me? Well, it affects you and me because belief systems are powerful when we're dealing with people. We have our own belief systems, we've had our own challenges. Where I've seen this the most is where you get into a conflict with a girl that you're going out with, and for some reason she starts to lash out, or she starts crying excessively, or there's manipulation that goes on. Usually that stems from negative beliefs that she encountered when she was a young girl in her home. Lack of a good relationship, especially with her father. That's why she takes some of those negative beliefs and applies them to you. Even though it's not your fault, it's not her fault for going through them, but somewhere within her, she might feel that you're also going to be leaving her. You're also going to be bad, or that you're by nature not a very good person, but there are exceptions when you are nice, but those are the exceptions. And that's wrong, isn't it? I just want to say the same thing goes for men as well. Men that grew up with good relationships with their mothers view women in a positive light. They view them with a positive role. And so that's also critical for men going forward in assessing their own underlying beliefs when they go out with women. So how can you apply this? Well, when you're going out, when you're seeing a woman, all you can do is ask her about her relationship with her father. It doesn't have to be very serious. Just, you can say something like, are you daddy's girl? Did you guys go out? Did you guys do something? Did you guys go on play dates? And you'll either get a positive response or a negative response. Now, if it's positive, you'll know that likely a lot of her beliefs are positive about men. If it's a negative response, then you'll have to calibrate yourself and see whether it works for you or not. Let's talk about some red flags that you'll probably avoid by realizing these negative beliefs. So a couple of red flags that come up from long side of negative beliefs that have endured through a girl's life. You might be in a conflict, and things like excessive arguing or cursing when you guys are in conflict might just show up. That's not usually normal. Another red flag that'll show up is physical hitting or slapping while in an argument, which is totally unacceptable from both sides. Another common one is to blow up in an argument, get really heated, and then afterwards apologize for it and almost beg that you're not going to do this again and beg the other person not to leave. That's also a form of manipulation, but it will happen. It's one of those red flags. And the fourth one is manipulation of withholding affection, threatening to leave, but also shaming. That happens a lot in arguments. From my personal experience in life, like I said, this rule of thumb has been super valuable to me. I've never seen it broken. In cases where I've seen a negative response, there were negative beliefs about men that I've encountered, but I was able to understand why. And in places where there was a positive response about her being positive with her dad, growing up with her dad, and spending time with the family, I saw those reflections too as positive reflections on me. There was caring, there was nurturing between us. So, although the rule is just a rule of thumb, it has been pretty persistent in my life, and I'm sure there are exceptions, no doubt about it. But then again, it's a rule of thumb, and it's just one tool in a big toolbox. So there you go, guys. I hope that helps you out, and see where you can employ it in your own lives. See you next time.